Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a second here to go live as I start the next stream. Welcome to Essence Stream. Looks like things are going okay on that. So let me get a couple more things in order here. And let's see. How do I want to monitor that? Because I was going to do it over there. But I guess I'll just have to see there. You know what? I'm going to just pull my phone out and do it that way. Dang, just hit my mic. Okay, give me 2 shakes here. Anybody that hops on right now. I just wanted to get one more thing set up so I can maybe see what's happening here. Sleep after 30 minutes. Okay. Go to the YouTube gaming app. Nope, not you. YouTube gaming. You know what? I ought to just do that. Atlee. Let's go like this. Come on. Okay. Then I'm going to scroll down. Is there anywhere that it lists here? I don't think that it does. No, it doesn't. Okay. So we will not do that route after all. Because I wanted to see if how many people are watching, if any. That's something that I do not get out of there. You know what? I'm going to hit stop there for now, so it's not interfering with the internet usage. I don't want you to do that. Okay, so now if we go to you. Okay, so that gives me an idea if anybody decides to hop on. I'm obviously the one who's already watching, so that only kind of counts. Let's get rid of that. And that should do that for me. Okay, welcome to Essence Streams. I'd like to do a little bit tonight here. Decided I got a chance to do some. I have some things that I kind of wanted to talk about a bit as I was on a trip this last weekend. Oh, that's the other thing. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about if I get the chance. Let me add that to my list really quickly. It's going to be truck recognition, something like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the job market. I now have my own truck, so I can do freight jobs, and I am up in Grand Canyon Village right now. So, assuming we can find a job up there, and we totally can, I'm gonna head back to New Mexico with, it looks like, 3 skid steer tractors, Case 70 XTs. Since I'd like to still do some more driving in Arizona, we'll go ahead or in New Mexico. We'll do that. So we'll set that as my GPS location. And this is my truck now. I purchased a Peterbilt 389 in Black Knight or something, I think was the color. I did not do any other customizations with it because With the economy mod, I did not have the money to do so. So I just did just the truck, and I actually downsized the engine a little bit, or got a cheaper engine. It's got, let's actually look at that real quick. It has, apparently my controller is not connected. Let's see why my controller is not connected. Options, controls. Well, that's not very good. Let's go out. Sorry, I just realized that I had not switched over to where you guys could see the game. So, there we go. For some reason, it has not picked up my controller or something. So we're going to go ahead and exit the game really quickly. I'll go back to my opening screen again. And, okay, I need you to stop prompting me on that. And I am not sure why it did not pick up my controller, because I had it plugged in. Okay. Now it's figuring itself out. Let's make sure the Logitech picked it up, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to go through and reset up all my controls now. Ah, that's why my Logitech software crapped out. So let's go ahead and get that running again. And there we go. That looks better. So let's go ahead and go back to American Truck. And you and you. Stats. Okay, come on. Did it not launch American Truck? Apparently I didn't click it correctly. Or something. Or Steam has frozen up now. I think Steam has frozen up now. Huh. Maybe this is a sign that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, let's kill Steam. And start over here. So there was a slight update to American Truck that I just had to go through, and apparently there's now an update to Steam. Go figure. Hopefully this won't take too long. Mostly there. Okay. Because I would hate to take too long on that as well. Okay. It is just taking too much time at every turn, it looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and continue the game. Okay, so back to what we were doing before. First off, let's go to controls. You know what? I think I'm getting a little bit of feedback from myself. Am I? No, I'm not. Not sure why. Sorry, I'm hearing just a little bit of feedback there. Okay. Options, controls, and it is still... Okay, let's see, I need that, and I need the mega shifter, and I need the... that's actually it. So if I go there, and I say, that looks fine, force feedback's all good, joy wheel, okay. That's fine. Okay. And then accelerator, brake, look up, down, that's fine. Eden Fuller 13 is what I have. Okay. So hopefully it didn't forget all of my other settings. You know what? I'm gonna assume at this point that it didn't. And we're gonna go drive and just check and see how things are. Oh, you know what it probably did forget though is my turn signal. I guess we'll see in a second. Anyway, just got back from a trip. Found myself watching lots and lots of trucks on the road. Okay, well, I've got force feedback, so that's good. Anyway, this is my truck. I'm going to turn my volume down just a tad here. Okay, so that's my truck, Peterbilt 389. It's very basic right now. Got my brights. Okay, so everything else seems to be set up at least the way I had it when I set it up. So we are going to pick up a trailer elsewhere, looks like. Looks like, where do we need to go pick it up? Just down the way a little bit. Down at Bitumen, down that way. So, on that note, I'm already adjusted because it's my truck, so I don't have to adjust it each time. I do have the Mega Shifter here, and I have an Eaton Fuller 13, which is I'm set up. So with an Eaton Fuller 13, you do not split the bottom 4 gears, but you do split the split the top 4 gears. So that's the setup there. Sorry, let me just check my audio levels here really quickly. I think that looks... actually, I think I'm overdriving just a little bit. Come on. I'm overdriving just a little bit. Let's turn it down just a tad. Okay. So, oh, that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. Hey, that's actually not such a bad thing. Okay, sorry, so I was actually hearing myself off my phone on my Bluetooth headset. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. I think my camera is kind of crooked from where I want it to be. Let's see, if I'm looking at the screen, how's the camera angle? I think the camera angle's off just a little bit. Sorry, I gotta get my camera angle here right, otherwise you guys are only gonna be seeing kind of what I'm seeing. So, if I look there, no, that looks really good. Okay, I think we're good. Let's go back.
Official Aviator said, hello.
Hey, Official Aviator, welcome to the stream. I'm just about to go pick up my first load.
Clumsy Fun Doggy said hi.
Hey, okay, I've got to look up your username because that was hard to understand. Clumsy Fun Doggy, that's right. Should I just call you Doggy? What should can I call you something for short? Would you prefer Clumsy, Fun, Doggy? What can we do for short here? Oh, parking brake. So we've got Official Aviator, which I think I'll just call you Aviator going forward, and Fun Doggy, Official Fun Dog. No, Clumsy Fun Doggy, that's what it is. We are going to go pick up...
Said, guess what? My cab over mod on ATS works.
Oh yeah? How'd you get it working?
Official Aviator said, thanks.
How'd you get the cab over mod working? Oh, and actually on ATS, if you want to... Except that one's... I would say if you wanted to try a non-European truck so it was more American, I would suggest the K100, but it's not a Steam mod, and I think you're sticking to Steam mods only.
Official Aviator said, well, I just reinstalled it on the game and it worked.
Oh yeah? So it just wasn't picking it up for some reason, huh? Oh, I am way over revving on these. And that's something I'll probably be talking about at some point in here is over revving. But cool, I'm glad you got it working. How do you think, or how do you like the Volvo FH16? I say if you want, I would recommend some videos to make you like them more. because I think the FH16 is a pretty awesome truck. After some videos I've watched on it. Better set a cruise before I go way over. You know what? I'm almost thinking that I should use... Okay, I'm going to make a change here really quickly. So this is going to drop us out of the game for just a second.
I really like it. I just did 2 rides from California to Las Vegas.
Cool. I'm actually going to switch one of my mods here. So I'm going to go from the Minimal Advisor interface top to Minimal Advisor interface bottom. The reason I'm doing that is I keep my head camera is actually getting in the way of my vision of it. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it to the bottom of the screen so that's not a problem. So cool. I'm glad you like it. I think it's a great truck. Very different, or kind of different to drive because it's a 12 speed instead of an American 13 or 18 or whatever. But if you're playing an automatic, it probably doesn't make much of a difference that way. But it does feel a lot different. You're a lot closer to the windscreen, to the windshield, so it makes a difference that way. Visibility is very different.
Official Aviator said, "Thanks for showing me. I would have not found it without you showing me."
Yeah, it's a good one, and you're welcome. I'll recommend the... Oh, there we go. Recommend them to anybody. Looks like it stopped raining while I was out, which isn't unexpected. I'm glad you're able to get it going. It gives you a taste of the European. What you'll find actually though is that on the American roads it's very, I guess, shorter than it needs to be. Although there are some of the deliveries that it can really come in handy to have a cab over truck, just because they're designed to be really, really tight, and it helps get around that tightness. But I enjoy driving a lot of there's a couple of other modded in cab over trucks as well. There's the Kenworth K100, although they do not have that on the Steam shop. And then there's also the Mack Ultraliner and the Peterbilt something 529 or something. I don't remember what the model is on the Peterbilt, but there's a Peterbilt that does it as well. Anyway, so there are a couple of other interesting cab over trucks. I just realized that my right monitor, I did not adjust my right and left monitor before I started here, and they're kind of off a little bit. So let's do this real quick. Let's go ahead and hit enter and get into that. And then I'm going to reach over here and adjust my monitors. I just noticed because the road coming in from the right side was uneven. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and pick up the load.
Said, "Yeah, when I was parking my truck, it was so easy because the truck itself was so small."
It is, and they turn on a dime.
Truck, it's so hard to park with the trailer.
Yes, and they turn on a dime. I mean, it's like, let's see, where's my pickup? I didn't notice that. They turn on a dime because they're so close. No, that's not the one I want. And so it makes a huge difference on drop and pickup. It's not that trailer. It's not that trailer. I'm not sure what I'm picking up, where I'm picking up at. I guess it might be around the back side of it here. I'd like a little input from anybody watching. Official Aviator. Oh, the other one. What was your other? Dang, what was the other username here? Let me look. Clumsy Fun Doggy. That's who it is. I've got my head cam in the lower left-hand corner. There it is. Is that a good size? Should it be larger? Should it be smaller? Because I'd like you guys to be able to see what I see.
Said, "Single player."
Yes, single player. You know, I've watched people play multiplayer.
Said changed my name.
I've watched people do multiplayer, and it just is not my thing. I haven't tried it out. But it just, I don't know. It does not. I feel like there are lots of people on there who are not doing what I want to do. I'm more of an immersion type player, and I feel like with multiplayer I would just be frustrated with the other drivers too much.
Said, "So many people just running into each other."
Exactly. Oh,
Said, Headcam is a bit disorienting.
Yeah, and that's actually why I don't want to do it as a full screen deal.
Said. Also, I changed my rank on Discord.
Gotcha.
Gregory Siebers said. Size is fine.
Cool. Hey, Official Aviator, I hadn't realized that you were Clumsy Fun Dave or Clumsy Fun Doggy on there. Gotcha. Okay, I think we are... Oh, I killed it again. I need to watch my clutch there. Okay, it looks like I'm not quite there. So I'm on advanced trailer, and what's my problem? Am I too far to the right or too far to the left? Looks like I'm just a bit to the left. Okay, so that means I need to go this way, and then that way, and we'll try it now. And all the lights just turned off.
Gregory Siebers said, have you tried Music Road near Albuquerque?
You know, I have not yet. I've watched someone do it.
Hey Sean, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well. Maddie, welcome on. Sorry you missed my last stream. I decided to do one in the middle of the day just because I had some time on a Friday. Oh, I'm there. I don't need to keep backing up. But I'm glad you hopped on and watched it afterwards. As you saw at the end of that stream, I bought a truck now, so I get to do my own runs instead of just quick jobs. So we are going from Grand Canyon here over to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think we could probably do the Music Road on the way, huh? Because that's on eastbound. Sorry, I'm trying to use my laptop to look at a couple of things here, and it just went to sleep on me.
Side road off highway, but actually a strip of Route 66.
Yeah, that's what I was actually watching a different YouTuber earlier today as they went on it, and I've actually watched one other one as well, which it's eastbound. Is it? It's this one right here. This is the musical road, huh?
Matty Finds said, I'd love to see that Music Road. I love that they put it in the game.
You know what? We'll go ahead and just do the long way round here, which will give me a few more miles on this delivery. But this is the musical road right here. So we'll go ahead and just add it in. And then...
Gregory Siebers said, yeah, that's it.
Actually, you know what? We'll do this first delivery, and then I'll grab a second one and get one over to like Tucumcari or Clovis or something, and we'll hit the musical road on that leg, so I'm not going out of my way. With the economy mod, going out of my way ends up eating into my money really badly. So we'll go ahead and do it on a second delivery here. We'll get to Albuquerque, and we'll pick up another trailer and go Roswell, Clovis, Hobbs, somewhere over there, and hit the music road at that point. As it is, I just barely slept, I think. So I think I'm probably good on sleep for a little while, and I should be fairly good on fuel.
Official Aviator said, even though you're not popular, you're my favorite to watch.
Thank you, Official Aviator. I try to make it high quality. Obviously, I'm not doing any editing, and this is a one-man show here. But I try and make it interesting, so I'm glad that you find it interesting.
Said, 45 mile per hour is optimal speed.
Yeah, I think they've got a sign there that says that. It says go 45. Oh, almost went too soon there. And I almost did it again. Oh, you know what? Is it picking me up as in high range? There we go. I was like, I'm not getting going. It thought I was in high range still. Okay, let's get on the road here. And I wanted to talk about a couple things today, if you guys would like to hear about it. So I watched an interesting video that was recommended by someone else about shifting theory. And I've actually watched a lot of different videos on shifting theory because I'm not a trucker in real life, but I'd like to make it more realistic if I can. So someone recommended a YouTube video, and it was specifically on shifting theory. And so I thought I might talk about that a little bit. And then I just recently got back from a road trip. So I live in southern Utah, southeastern Utah to be exact. Oh, I didn't get there. Southeastern Utah to be exact. And I just took a trip across Utah to the other southern side of Utah, to southwestern Utah, so down near New Mexico actually. And in fact, if we went to my map right here, which obviously it's not going to be on the map, but I live right over here, and I took a trip up over and then back down to this side of Utah. And I was actually really near to Kayenta, is where I was. And so on the trip, one of the things I was doing was I was watching trucks. And I find that ever since I started playing the truck simulators, I watch trucks like crazy, and I love watching them. And one of the things that I was watching was, how do you tell what truck manufacturer makes a model? Like, what are the man, I need to slow down. Sorry, let's slow it down some here.
I just went to Utah with my family to the Arches and Moab and the national parks.
Ah, see, so then you'll know right where I was. So I actually, I work for a company, and it's where I grew up, but I work for a company in a little town called Blanding, which is about 70 miles south of Moab. And so that's where I was actually the last few days, was out that way. So I go through that area all the time, and I'm actually excited and hoping that Utah is going to be one of the upcoming DLCs, maybe after Oregon, because there's some pretty cool roads out that way that I would like them to add in. The San Rafael Swell on I-70 would be really fun just for learning to control speed as much as anything.
Official aviator said, Moab is very, very, very small. It's best known for off-roading.
Yes, and if you think Moab is small, so Moab is about 10,000 people, and it's the only town in Grand County, and then there's just south of there is San Juan County, and there's no town in San Juan County that's as big as Moab is. So the largest town is actually Blanding, which is about 3,200 people, and Moab is fairly large in comparison. So anyway, but Moab is awesome. It's a great little town. I actually didn't like it growing up because they were like our rival or something, and so I didn't like it. But
wait, is Oregon confirmed as the next state DLC?
Yes, Oregon should be the next DLC. That's what I've seen as well. And so I'm just hoping Utah comes after that. That maybe the New Mexico team will jump over and do Utah. I would understand if they don't, but that's what I'm kind of hoping, is that they'll do Utah next. Just because I'm partial to that, but not necessarily because it would be their best choice to do. Although I do think it would give a lot of routes going from like Nevada down to New Mexico and things like that. Nevada to Arizona, you'd have alternate routes, and so I think there would be some use to it going that way. Anyway, as I was driving along, so it's about a 300, almost 400 mile trip, 375 miles, and I do it once a month. But what I do is I watch trucks and I watch trucks and I watch trucks.
I wanted the Midwest, dang it.
Yeah, the Midwest would be cool. I think, there's a lot of work ahead for SCS, and that's the truth of it. Is there's a lot of states, so they've got a lot of work going ahead. Anyway, one of the things I do as I drive is I just sit there and I watch trucks. And so this time, as I was going through, you're gonna do that, huh? Let's see if I can do this without clipping them. Nope, I can't. I just lost all my money from this trip. Anyway, I should have gone wider. Anyway, so I sat there and I watched trucks, and I was trying to teach myself, okay, how can I spot the different trucks? Because you've got Kenworths, you've got the big ones I see most of the time are Volvos, Kenworths, Peterbilts, and Freightliners.
I live in California, and I was at Santa Monica in the game, and the pier is close to real life, but the other stuff around it is unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to get every single detail.
Yeah, they've got like a 1 to 19 scale, I think is what it is. So you've got to leave some stuff out. I love the Santa Monica area in the game, because I've actually never been to Santa Monica in real life. I've been some places in California, but that's not an area I've ever been. And so that's fun to see. I love the white beach they have there and everything. Anyway, lots of fun. So I was watching all the trucks, and I was like, okay, what can I do to spot the trucks? And here's the conclusion I came to. And Maddie may be the one that can speak to this. And I said, well, how about grills? And so I started looking, and actually, if you look right over here, you've got a Kenworth here, which has 2 sections on the grill, and a Peterbilt that has 4 sections on the grill.
Trust me, it's not that white. XD.
It's not that white in real life, huh? Anyway, so I came to the conclusion that if it's got 1 section on the grill, it's, well, usually it's a Volvo, but then they also have a slash going across it. And then if it's 2 sections, it's a Kenworth. And if it's 3 sections, it's a Freightliner, although some Freightliners have 1 section as well. And then if it's got 4 sections, it's a Peterbilt. Now, obviously, that rule goes out the window if they've got custom grills, because they can have whatever they want. But for most trucks, it was either a Volvo or a Freightliner, although the Volvo has the horizontal or the vertical through it.
Said, I just go by. If it's ugly, it's a Volvo.
Yes. Although I will say I've noticed that there's a lot more Volvos on the road than I used to notice. Now, I also didn't used to pay so much attention to the trucks, but there are a lot of Volvos on the road anymore. Volvo VNLs.
Said, then need to bring Caterpillar and Mack trucks.
Yes, I would love if they added the Mack truck into the game. And I've heard rumors, and I haven't heard this from SCS, but I've heard rumors online that they're actually working to get the license for Mack trucks, and that may actually be in the works and not too far away. So that there is some hope on that front. And obviously they have Caterpillar engines in the game, although maybe that's just on the expansions or on the mods that they have Caterpillar engines. I'm used to seeing Caterpillar engines, but I also always play a modded game, so maybe that's where the Caterpillar engines come in game.
Gregory Stevens said, Caterpillar trucks are hot.
I'm not, in my mind, I can't think of what Caterpillar trucks look like, and that's just my failing. We are almost up to speed here. So running on I-40 right now, and we are almost up to speed. I am actually going to I'm going to switch up my dash display so I can see my cruise. Never mind, I actually want to see my fuel economy. So anyway, so it was a fun trip. I actually only got back a couple hours ago from that trip, and now I'm sitting here driving, fake driving instead of real driving. But I just found myself watching for trucks and got to the point where at a distance I could recognize at least the make of most of the trucks. Models I don't know at this point. I can pick out a 389, and I can pick out mainly just a 389. But I can at least recognize the make of the truck. And looks like we're dropping down to 1 lane.
I have been hearing about select roads to other states. Is that true?
About what roads? Sorry. Select roads. I wonder if that was a mistype. Like from New Mexico?
Official aviator said, asterisk grammar.
Yeah, you'll, as far as in game, you'll always see not always, you'll often see roads that will in future lead to other states. Sometimes you don't.
Said, secret.
Ah, yes, secret roads, that there are. I actually watched a video of somebody, so Kayenta is in northern Arizona, and I watched somebody who took their truck up around all the fences and stuff and made their way up into Utah that way, up into Monument Valley, Utah, which Anyway, it was kind of cool, and I was a little disappointed because at least currently, if anybody knows Monument Valley, it's got the mitten buttes that look like that, and they had the mittens in the wrong spot. So maybe they'll fix that long term, but I think that's probably that way for anybody who actually lives near anywhere they do, where things just don't quite match up. But the mittens were there, they just, one was on the right side of the road and one was on the left side of the road, and if you're going north, they should both be on the right side of the road. So I was a little disappointed on that front, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if it was wrong. There's actually a few roads up that way that I wish they'd put on when they do Utah. But there is a secret road in, northeastern New Mexico, which apparently if you have a lowboy, you can't get through. I don't know, that's the only one I'm aware of is the one there in northeastern, which if we pulled up the map, I think it actually is located, I haven't driven it, but it's located right here. To my understanding, it actually goes between these two areas here or here.
I got to go, sorry, great stream.
Okay, thanks for coming, Officially Aviator.
Said. Discord ID, Greg's 92,584, number 5,971, if interested.
Cool. So, Maddie, what is your truck manufacturer of choice? You don't like the Volvo, obviously. Sorry, I'm pausing while I unlock my laptop here. Maddie Fintz, do you have a manufacturer of choice on your trucks? And I better get over before I hit this guy. So if not, I'm going to go ahead and move on to shifting theory. So one of the other things while I was actually away from home, I did some YouTube watched some other streams and stuff, and one of the subreddits I subscribe to is the Truck Sim subreddit, and someone was asking something about shifting. I don't remember exactly what it was, something about shifting theory. It was somebody who's finally using an H shifter for the first time after 5 years of playing the game and commenting of how much better it makes it. And then someone linked a truck shifting theory video, which I thought was phenomenal. And I've actually done some research there on my own and learned some about progressive shifting theory and stuff. But there were a few things that the guy pointed out, and I think that many of them are things that, especially in game, people don't often do. And that not everybody shoots for immersion, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they don't. One is that almost everybody I watch over revs like crazy. So big diesel engines, like you find in semis, are designed to go between 1,000 and maybe 1,500 RPM. That's where they make their power. And many of them are even lower. Like I was looking at some stuff on the Scania V8 today, and the Scania V8 tops out about 1,350 RPM is where the torque peak ends. Now the horsepower peak is actually higher, but if you're driving for economy, you should be shifting long before the horsepower peak. And so a good rule of thumb is, I can bypass, sweet, is 1,000 to 1,500 RPM. Now each truck's going to be a little bit different, and each engine in your truck. So if I look at my truck diagnostics here, it's going to tell me right here, it's going to say 1,000 to 1,400 RPM is my peak torque and also my peak efficiency. So if I keep it within this 1,000 to 1,400 RPM, I'm going to do the best, and I'm going to save wear and tear on my engine, and I'm going to get better economy. So that's the first rule of thumb, is between about 1,000 and 1,500 RPM.
Said. Yeah, the trucks that work in Kenworths and have a 1,500 RPM rev limiter.
Yep. And it used to be on older trucks. So if you go back like 20 years or something before they were all electronic controlled, there were a few manufacturers that revved higher than that, 1,600, 1,700 RPM. But on the modern engines, they're all pretty much 1,500 or less. Like I said, this engine in particular in game is saying 1400 RPM. Now I'm using a mod that's real engines and gears, and it's supposed to be a lot closer to real torque curves than the stock game, and my game just crashed. Give me just a second here. The game totally crapped out. I'm gonna have to restart it. I wonder if I think I've got a mod problem. I was noticing this the other day, but I haven't spent the time to figure out which mod is causing the problem. Anyway, but 1500 is a pretty good rule of thumb, especially if you're using the stock engines. Gotcha. Gotcha. The W900 is a good looking truck. I actually like, in game at least, the 389 better, the Peterbilt 389. But the W900 is a nice one as well. When it gets to the newer trucks, like the more sloped hood designs, I'm really not very familiar with them, so I can't say which ones I like. But of the two older ones, the W900 and the Peterbilt 389, I think I like the 389 better. In this case, I bought the 389 because I knew where there was a Peterbilt dealer. So there was that. Okay, I am back in game. Let's get you guys switched over.
Said. I agree with you there, but I don't like the dash on the 389.
I agree. Actually, I would agree with that. And one of the problems I run into with my triple screen setup, first world problems and all, is that the dash setup really makes a difference because I don't have a lot of vertical space. I have a lot of horizontal space, so I've got all kinds of room out there, but the dash design makes a huge difference on how usable the truck is for me. Like there are a few of the I like the K100. I like the look of the K100 and I like driving it, but the dash on it is really hard to use, and so that can be difficult. It takes up like 2/3 of my vertical space, and I feel like all I can see is dash. I do like the W900 dash though.
Moses Molina said, hello.
Hey Moses. It looks like there's an L in there, not just Moses, but welcome Moses to the stream. Anyway, I like the Kenworth trucks. I like the Peterbilt trucks. It's interesting because lots of freights buy Freightliners, or lots of fleets buy Freightliners, and I don't think they're all that impressive of trucks, but maybe I just haven't driven the right Freightliner. They seem to be very effective as a fleet truck, but I don't think they're really exciting. Not like the older 389 and the W900 are. Although I have wondered if I were driving in real life, would I prefer the newer trucks because they're not as dark or they're not as loud? You know, like the older trucks end up having more cabin noise, and maybe I'd prefer the newer trucks anyway. If I were really driving. Anyway, shifting theory. So he said, you know, keep it below or between 1,000 and 1,500 RPM. And then he called the fifth gear the happy gear, which was interesting. And he said basically, fifth gear is where you want to hang out if you're going.
We had one really old Freightliner at work a while ago, and it shifted like a dream. It
Oh,
was
cool.
my favorite, but we got rid of it.
What tranny did it have in it? The old Freightliner. Was it a 13 or a 10 or an 18? I assume it wasn't a 15.
Said, I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. Anyway, so he talked about the fifth gear, at least on your normal 13, 18 speed tranny, is happy gear.
I believe 13.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I say 13's really common these days. And I was actually seeing another thing that was talking about one of the things you get with a 13 speed is you get a higher resell, and it sells more quickly than if you have like a 10 speed, because 10 speeds just aren't all that popular anymore. And I can understand why. Anyway, so he called fifth gear happy gear, and he said you use fifth gear. He said get through the first 4 gears as quickly as you can, right? You want to just get through those and get to fifth gear, because fifth gear, and he mentioned a few reasons. He said first, it's where you really start to pick up any kind of speed. Come on, let me over. And then he also said that if you're ever like cruising up, man, I am right on that guy's tail. Do not hit your brakes. If you're cruising up to the red light and you're just doing the put up to the red light, fifth gear is the one you want to use for that, because you don't want to drop into the lower range, because then it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder. You're going to have to drop to fourth gear and then go back up to fifth gear, and so it's just going to be more difficult. But fifth gear is kind of that sweet gear. And then he talked about progressive shifting.
1 to 4, as I was told, is usually just to get you going.
Yes, exactly. 1 to 4 is to get you off the line and then get up into that high range and stay there as long as you can, right? You know, you want to just, if you're coming to a stop, but you may not have to stop, just kind of keep it in fifth as long as possible. You don't want to have to drop to the lower range, which I found myself in game. I'll go ahead and drop to the lower range fairly readily, and so I'm gonna stop and try and break that habit that I've gotten into, because I think as far as a real trucker goes, it's not a good habit. So I'm gonna try and stay away from dropping into fourth gear until basically I've come to a stop. Like the impression I got was stay in fifth until you've actually to the point of basically stopping, and then you can drop down into the lower range at that point. So that was one of the interesting things I learned, was fifth gear is happy gear. And then the other one was progressive shifting. Now, I've actually learned some about progressive shifting before, but the idea with progressive shifting is rather than pushing it to 1500 RPM with every gear, in the first 4 gears especially, you want to shift it to lower RPM. And what his recommendation was, and I've heard different recommendations, was start at 900 RPM, you shift from first to second, and then 1000 RPM you shift from second to third, and then 1100 RPM to shift from third to fourth, and then he didn't continue, but my assumption is at that point 1300 RPM for fourth to fifth, and just kind of climb it up 100 RPM every time. Now, he said most people will recommend doing like 1100 with 50 RPM gaps, so 1100, 1150, 1200, but he said that in the mountainous Midwest and beyond, well, mountainous western states, that doesn't work very well, because the hills you get too many hills. In flat country that works great, but in hilly country he actually recommended holding it a little bit longer. Come on, I'm not going to be able to get over. Come on, white SUV. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so he recommended holding it longer. Oh, I am getting close to my time to sleep. Let me see how long I've got before I have to sleep. 3 hours. So let's see if I need to plan a rest stop here. Oh, we're at Albuquerque. In fact, I ought to get over before I miss my exit, huh? Maybe we're gonna go do the musical road, because I'm not gonna get over in time. We'll see. Let's see if I can make this exit. Oh, sweet, he got over, so I can merge some. I don't think I want. Okay, so this isn't my exit, it's actually the next exit. Okay, anyway, so progressive shifting is a way to increase your fuel mileage, but it also helps you to get through those first 4 gears faster, because you're not using as much time in them. Anyway, and then once you get to 5th gear, then you can go ahead and hold it a little longer. And then he also pointed out that that's a good rule of thumb, but topography, geography is going to affect that. So if you're going up a hill, you're about to crest the hill, go ahead and hold the gear a little bit longer. You know, don't stick strictly to that shift at whatever RPM. You can go a little bit higher, because, and then shift once you crest the hill. And then the other thing that he pointed out is slowing down to gear down. Now, for anybody who's driven a manual transmission in a normal car, which Maddie and I had a conversation about this last time, and I do this, when I'm coming into a stop in a manual transmission, then I start dropping gears. You know, if I'm driving along in 5th gear, then you're only driving along at like 2,000 RPM, you know, maybe 3,000. And in a car engine, you can rev to 5,000 or 6,000 RPM. So I'll kick in the 4th gear and let the engine hold me back. What he pointed out is that in a big truck, you don't do that. You gear down to slow down. So you start slowing down, engine brake, whatever you need to do to slow down. And then once you're down far enough in the RPMs, then you shift up. So like right now, I'm down to about 1,200 RPM. And if I let off the throttle a little bit, then I'm going to start dropping. This is my exit anyway. And then once I get to about 1,000 RPM, I bring it up to 1,500 and let it start slowing me down at that point. I don't shift up to 2,000 RPM and then let it slow me down. You slow down first, then you gear down after, which is something I have definitely been doing wrong in game. So something I'm going to have to break a habit of if I want to be more immersive in my gaming. So that was the one that really stood out to me, that hey, you're doing this wrong. And actually, here I just caught myself about to go to 4th gear. So I'm in 5th gear right now, which is happy gear, right? This is the gear I want to stay in as I start coming up to this stoplight, and just kind of slow it down. And see, now I just roll on the throttle. I'm kind of low in the RPMs, but if I were to downshift, then I'd be in the lower range, and I don't want to do that. So anyway, so that was the one that really stood out to me, is gear down to shift, or slow down to gear down. And I've actually heard that before, and I was semi-aware of it, but I didn't realize how much it was applicable. Here's my turn, so I'll go ahead and start going over. And he also said that for your test, for your commercial license test, you'll have to be able to go from 5 to 4 while slowing down, but that in practice he doesn't actually usually go much beyond 4th. He just uses service brakes for the last 3 gears worth of slowing down, which is 10 miles an hour. I mean, it's not going very fast at that point. So
Marty finds said,
Will it be a blindside back? Only time will tell.
oh, I bet it will be. I bet they're gonna throw that at me just because they want to watch me suffer.
Marty finds said,
I'd say it's a 80% chance.
I think you're probably right. And actually, with this, I've delivered here before, but I don't remember offhand. So I'm in 5th gear right now, so I'm cruising down pretty low in the RPMs, but I'm still in 5th gear, keeping it in the happy gear. And here's my delivery. Oh, this is it right here. This is what I did last time. I totally almost missed it last time, and I'm gonna have to reapproach this. I'm backing up a little bit because I did not swing nearly wide enough. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we are going to come into this other lane. Because this is a very narrow entrance. Okay, let's see what where our delivery location is. Go figure. This is going to be a blindside once I get it all said and done, Maddie. You were right. Oh, and I stalled that. And I think I've talked before on this stream about how they actually need to work on that, and you should be able to start off without giving it any throttle just by slowly releasing your clutch, and they do not do that in game. So here I'm going to get some input. So I've watched Squirrel do this location once, and I think what he ended up doing is he pulled up into the corner over here, and then he backed into there, and then he pulled back out here and then backed it all the way in. And I think that's about the only way to do it. The other option would be to maybe pull in straight in here and just back it in a full U, but I bet that's going to be really hard to do. I probably am going to go exterior view here just because I'm still in the learning phase. But I think that's what I'm going to have to do is go ahead and pull up into the corner over there and then back it down over to here and then go. And one thing I'm going to do that I noticed on my previous streams is I'm going to throw up my F2 mirrors, and that's mainly because I can see the other mirrors just fine, but anybody watching my stream cannot. And so that way they can see what's going on there. That way. You know what? We're gonna do the interior view, and you guys will just have those 2 mirrors, so at least you can see what's going on, since you can't see my side mirrors. And we'll see if we can do this. Oh, and someone else pointed out a tip of if you want to know which way your trailer's going to back, pay attention to the direction the bottom of your steering wheel is going instead of the top of your steering wheel. And I thought that was a really good tip, because that's one that I I really have to think at, and then I get it wrong half the time. So we're going to see if we can back this trailer in over there. And I'm going to go ahead and put on my hazard lights. Okay. So, how are we looking? I'm going to check my setup really quickly. I think we might be able to do that. Okay, so if I want my trailer to go that way, then I'm going to bring this guy around to the right. See if we can get the trailer around there. I know this is not going to be anywhere near a single back. Maddie actually started watching my stream in the middle of me trying to do a really hard backing job, and I think it took me 20 minutes or something to do that parking job, and he stuck around. So oh, and I'm totally jackknifing. I've got to pay more attention here. That is steeper than I meant to go, which makes me know that I can actually get as steep as I want, because I totally went way too steep that time. So we are going to stall. So if anybody cares, I've got a 425 horsepower Detroit diesel in my truck. That's the engine I ended up going with. So 425 is a pretty good power. One of the problems that I actually don't like about this Real Engines mod that I have on is I feel like all of his engines are underpriced in comparison with the stock engines. And I don't know if I'm going to make that with my nose. We're going to go back just a little bit now. Man, that is so close over there. Okay, I got to do this again, because that is not what I want.
Matty Finds said,
The way that I look at which way to turn the wheel is whatever mirror has a more visible trailer. That's the way you turn the wheel to get straight.
Ah, that's a good tip too, Maddie. Okay, so we're gonna go there. I went in too steep on that one. Okay, I think I'm getting it where I need to go now. Except I'm gonna hit that. Ah, dang it, not quite. Let's try this again. Just forward a little bit. And hard left. And I still didn't make it quite past it. Okay, we are going to make it on this one though. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and crank it to the right. And that was like horribly unstraight, but I think it might have done what I was looking for it to do. Okay, now I should be able to come up over here. And maybe get this straightened out. Okay, now let's take a look at where we are at this point. So I can definitely get that straightened out before. It's going to take just a little bit here, but we can get it straightened out. And then I've got to head down the middle here, fairly straight, and then crank it hard. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, you know what I'm going to do to straighten that guy out, actually? I'm going to come over this way a little bit. Okay. Sorry, I don't talk as much as when I'm backing up because there's so much concentration. It's okay, I talk enough the rest of the time to make up for it all, so. Okay, now we're pretty straight. So I want my trailer to go that way, so let's go ahead and back it. And I'm gonna hit that trailer back there, huh? Because I don't have as much space. Ah! Okay, so we've got a trailer right there, so I got to get more to the side.
Matty finds. Said.
Yet another time where a cab over is more advantageous.
It's true. If I were in a cab over, this would be a whole lot simpler instead of a conventional with a sleeper. Because the sleeper makes a big difference too. Even a day cab would probably be fairly simple, but if it were a cab over, that would probably make up the difference. And that's where I'm partial to the cab over design, because it's like, man, okay, we're going like this. We're gonna reapproach this, because with a cab over you get a sleeper in the same wheelbase as a conventional day cab, and so that makes a huge difference in the maneuverability. Again, as Maddie, as you pointed out last time, you know, most of the places in America don't actually make you back like this. They have a lot better setups on their lots and whatnot. I mean, if you're going to be continually delivering semi-trailers, you plan accordingly. But the cab over does make a huge difference. Okay. I have no... See, now I'm too steep. My trailer's way too steep now. But that's okay, because I can fix that. I think.
Matty finds. Said.
I've never driven a sleeper in real life. I'm surprised driving one in the game hasn't messed with my back in a day cab in real life.
That's true. I guess it could mess with it if that's what you do on a day-to-day. Get used to the longer wheelbase and then misjudge. Okay, so... but I guess if you're shuttling around the lot, then that day cab makes a huge difference on how quickly you can do so. And, okay, we are going to straighten it out now. And here's what I've got to think about how to do. So I've got the nose of that trailer over there, and I've got to try and get my trailer as close as possible to that without hitting it. So if I go a little bit this way... I think I'm clearing it. Okay, I'm going to stop and take a look here instead of continuing to guess. Okay, we're actually on a pretty good approach right now. I probably ought to start straightening up a little bit.
Matty finds. Said.
Looking good.
Okay, there's my... I'm going to have to do at least one pull forward on this. So maybe I ought to do it right now, because I'm missing that cone. Oh no, there's the other cone. Ah, dang it. So I thought that the left cone was the right cone, and I was correcting accordingly. Okay, so that means I actually need to go steeper again. Okay. Nope, more. And I am about to the end of my travel. Let's get straightened up before I get there. There we go. And kill the engine. Now, if I go like this. Okay, now I need to send it a little bit that way. Well, okay, it accepts it, but I actually don't accept it. So we're going to do this a little bit better here. And in the process, I'm probably going to make it worse.
Matty finds. Said.
Bravo. That would be challenging for anyone. Great job.
Okay, you know what? We're going to call this. Let's see how bad this looks. We are quite crooked. Oh man, we are quite... Oh. It's good enough. They accept it, I'll accept it, I guess. So let's go ahead and hit the parking brake and drop the trailer. Okay. So we drove 353 miles and made $511. I also had that one nick of that Prius back in the beginning that took 220 off, so I netted about 290, which currently I have a bank payment of $150 a day, so at least I've made my bank payment. That's the important part. And I don't think I have any damage to the truck. Little wear on the engine, a little wear on the chassis, but otherwise not too bad. So let's go grab another job and we will do the musical road. So freight market, starting where I am in Albuquerque. Let's go ahead and take this guy to Tucumcari. 26 tons. That may be a little heavy for my load. I've only got 425 horses, but we're gonna do it. 26 tons or 52,000 pounds. So this is going to be a heavy load. But we're going to go for it.
Said, someone needs to make a mother who can just back up truck after truck for practice.
You know, I agree. And actually someone had mentioned on Reddit the other day that they actually recommended giving you the option, instead of buying a truck, to actually hire on with a company, and then you just do jobs for one company versus doing quick jobs and kind of do it that way, just kind of having a career path that way. I thought that would be interesting. But I do agree it would be really good to have just, you know, shuttling back and forth. Okay, we got to look out here. We are good. Have a job where you just shuttle around a yard or something, much like you do, Maddie, in real life, and then you could practice your backing skills. I think that would be really useful in game. Okay, looks like we are free to the left and the right. Okay, so I'm going to try and do some progressive shifting here, which means I've got to remember to shift a lot earlier than I normally did. I'm now in happy gear and 5th gear, and we've got a red light coming up, so I'm just going to let off the throttle and kind of inch up here, and I don't think I'm going to make it. Nope, I did not make it. So, drop to first now. Dang, I totally missed my gear. Okay. I've also thought, Maddie, about... Oh, come on. Trying to double clutch instead of floating my gears like I've been doing, but I think at this point I'm going to keep floating. Maybe in the future I'll teach myself to double clutch instead, although the game doesn't technically make you double clutch, but it might be good just for my skill set to teach myself how to do it. Come on, turn green, no luck. And actually, being empty, I could probably skip some gears too. Come on. My progressive shifting is not working out for me so far. Okay, wait, how far away is this job then? Okay, it's just right there. I thought maybe I had chosen the wrong job. Oh, that's what I need to do. I need to go rest before I take any more jobs. So, where's my nearest rest area? I just hopped on the freeway, which means I'm going to have to... Sorry, my guy was just yawning at me. That's probably my closest rest area. Too bad I'm on the freeway now. So, okay, I'll just do that. And then that job will probably disappear while I'm sleeping, so... but I cannot handle another job without sleeping. And if I go sleep in the middle of that short of a job, I will probably be late. So, let's go ahead and we'll flip around on the freeway up here at the Cloverleaf Junction, whatever it is. and then we'll do that. Anyway, so I was on the trip. I was actually pretty happy that I figured out some kind of a shorthand for myself and didn't stay on the road, of how I could tell the difference between the truck manufacturers, so that it and I got to the point where I could. There were a few people who would have custom grills that threw me off, and they'd get close and I'd say, oh, that's actually a Peterbilt, not a Kenworth or whatever. But for the most part, that at least got me in the realm of that. I've actually got a brother-in-law who has a CDL, and he just started driving again. He was doing construction previously, but I got to talk to him a little bit about trucking and stuff, and he just started driving again this last week.
Said, I actually don't double clutch in the game. I've tried, but I seem to grind gears more. The game doesn't seem to like it. Maybe I just need to adjust my clutch settings in the menu.
Yeah, I wish that they put in the clutch brake on the clutch, so that you only, would have to push the clutch halfway or something in order to do it, but they also don't have that implemented. Whoa. That bus totally... Oh, man. I thought it was going and I didn't slow down as much as I should have. Okay. Okay. Now we'll just get back on the freeway going the other way. And then we will go catch some Z's before I fall asleep at the wheel, or, get a fine. So, as far as New Mexico in real life, I have driven probably the farthest into New Mexico from the Utah edge I've gone is Farmington. Actually, I've been to Albuquerque, so I've been as far as Albuquerque before, but I've never been to Santa Fe or Roswell, or even I've driven through Gallup once, so I guess I have been through Gallup once. But if you get down towards Texas or Mexico and stuff, I've never been in that corner of New Mexico before, so that's all foreign to me. But I do know in-game, I do know the Farmington is pretty much the only in-game place that I know, which, if you've been to Farmington in real life, is not very impressive. It's an interesting town, but it's not, I don't know, it's interesting, we'll leave it at that. Albuquerque is more of a real city, but Farmington... Now, the reason I've been to Farmington, though, if we go back to where I grew up, and the town I grew up in was 3,000 people, Farmington, New Mexico, which was about 2 hours away, was the largest, or the nearest Target, the nearest Home Depot, the nearest lots of places. So I've been to Farmington a few times in my life. It was also one of the closest airports. So there was a time when I flew into Farmington. Okay, I'm in 5th again. I'm in happy gear. Let's see if I can stay in happy gear. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Oh, I should have stayed in happy gear. I was almost there. Anyway, I'm here in Albuquerque now, so I've only been to Albuquerque once in my life, and that's because I flew into Albuquerque. And I was supposed to fly on to Farmington, and my flight was... my previous flight had been delayed, so this flight was delayed. And so then I missed the flight that would take me from Albuquerque to... Oh, come on. The flight that would take me from Albuquerque to Farmington. And so I ended up driving from Albuquerque to Farmington. So that's the only time I've ever driven that stretch in real life. But there you go. Oh, I'm sleeping. That's what I'm doing. I was like, why is it pointing that out? Okay, that does not look like what I want, is it? Oh, it's around the corner. Okay. It's around the corner. So, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about tonight, since it looks like I'm in a lull anyway, and so I've been listening to a podcast, which I've talked about, I think maybe the last 2 streams, called Cults. And it's interesting because the podcast talks about the psychology of cults. It's kind of what it's about. And so it's kind of interesting to listen to the different things on there, the different psychology. And there's a couple of things that are recurring in almost all cults. And they make the distinction there because there's different definitions of what a cult is, but they actually make the distinction of a dangerous cult or a destructive cult, one that isolates its members and whatnot. Not just a small religious movement, but a group that specifically targets. We'll go ahead and go to sleep. Specifically targets isolating their members and controlling their members more. And so now I should be able to go do my pickup. And one of the things that is very often done is, or I could even say probably almost always done, is isolating the members. And oftentimes that's not necessarily through physical isolation so much as an us versus them mentality. There's those of us that are in the group, and there are those of us who are out of the group. Now, interestingly, cults are not the only ones who do this, but they do it very well. Oftentimes, dang it. Oftentimes, other groups do it as well, and do it quite effectively. Political groups do it. Fraternities sometimes do it. Things like that, but cults do it quite heavily. So which way am I going now? Okay, so I'm just going to be turning left and going back up there. Okay, and they do it. Now the last 2 that I listened to, actually the last 2 episodes, were on the FLDS. Now, if anybody knows about the FLDS, so I said that I live in southern Utah, southwestern Utah actually is where I live. Right in my backyard is the FLDS. And in fact, there are many FLDS who have recently moved to the town I live in, Cedar City, because it looks like I'm going to do a crawling start here. Do I not have a low gear? Oh, there we go. And apparently I can't start. Anyway, so they've been moving here because they've been evicted from their homes, basically down where they used to live, and so now they've been evicted from their homes, and there's a whole story behind why they've been evicted from their homes. The big part of it being that they've been told not to deal with non-members, basically, and so it's caused all kinds of issues. FLDS, they're in my backyard. But so the first episode was on Warren Jeffs, who was the most recent and still is the most recent prophet of the FLDS. Even though he's currently in prison in Texas, he's still their prophet. And then the second episode talks about the cult in general, or the group in general. And so it was interesting to listen to an outsider's view, because I have, a quasi-insider's view, having grown up in Utah and have been in this area for a while. There's certain views on it, and I've actually learned a lot about them in my recent past. But it was interesting to take an outsider's view of their group, and it wasn't that I thought they misrepresented them or anything. But one of the things that came up in this podcast is, first off, there's the us versus them mentality of, in this case, the members of the FLDS church, and those not, the us versus them. And they have chosen to isolate themselves in a little town in southern Utah, northern Arizona. There's actually 2 towns there, right there on the border, and they call it Short Creek, but it's Colorado City, Arizona, and Hilldale, Utah. And so they've physically isolated themselves to create this us versus them mentality. There's also a group of them that lives in Canada, and there are groups of them spread out across different parts in the US as well. So there's that, but they physically isolated themselves. But then they've also emotionally or mentally isolated themselves, in that they don't deal much with outsiders, with non-members. And the other thing that they do to create, or one of the other things that they mentioned, I think it might have actually been in the previous episode, not talking about the FLDS, talking about the children of God, which was another really fascinating one that I had never heard of. But they do what they called thought terminating cliches. And that was the one that I found really interesting. And I see, because lots of groups do us versus them thinking, and do isolation that way. You know, the Republican Party does it towards the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party does it towards the Republican Party. But there's also the thought terminating cliches, which was basically, you have phrases that cause people to stop thinking. And if you say these, then your thought process just kind of comes to an end, because you know that you can disregard whatever's being said. On the Democratic side, that could be, redneck. It could be, there's lots of different phrases, and I'm trying to think of some really good ones there, but there are phrases, baby killers, or things where not baby killers, that would be in the other direction. Sorry, checking my mirrors. But there are terms on the other side. It might be libtard, it might be gun grabber, it might be any different phrase. And once you hear that phrase, you kind of go into it to an emotional thought process rather than an intellectual thought process, and it stops you from critically thinking about what's being said or what's being argued. And so rather than arguing the point at hand, they can just use this thought terminating cliche to get you to stop thinking and not have to argue the merits of whatever's at hand. So it was kind of an interesting idea. Ooh, that was closer than I would have liked. That stood out to me and got me thinking about these thought terminating cliches.
Said. Interesting.
Oh, I still got my engine brake on. So I'm not sure. I'm really struggling with this progressive shifting. I keep missing my gears. And that was something I thought maybe I could ask you, Maddie. I had a mod on at one point, and I'm trying to remember if it was in here. I had a mod. It was a physics mod, and the thing that the physics mod did is it basically, the only change it made was it made it where you didn't drop RPMs as quickly. So like, as you're shifting, your tachometer, your RPM, your engine RPMs wouldn't drop as quickly as they do in the stock game. And one of the things it did is it actually made it a little easier to shift, I thought, to not miss your shifts. But I didn't know how accurate to real life it is. If you watch the speed at which the RPMs drop in game, does that seem pretty real to life? Do they seem faster than they ought to? Do they seem like I'm stalling my truck out because I'm in 5th gear instead of in 1st? Does the way the engine responds as far as that goes seem...
The game has it right, I think.
Okay, because I actually used to be playing one with the physics mod, and what it did is it made it easier. I could be more lackadaisical about my shifting because I had more time to do it. And then I got back to doing it without the mod, and I had a really hard time hitting my shifts because I had to shift, I don't know, twice as fast as I did with the mod on. And so I was wondering which one is more realistic. Now, the guy who made the mod said from the get-go, he's like, look, I'm not a truck driver. I've just been watching videos. And, the job I was going for is missing. But but Gallup's going to be the wrong way. Well, I guess I've got to rethink this then, because I went to sleep and the job that I was originally going to take is no longer available. And I'd still like to do the musical road, which is right there. So let's see what we've got in the freight market from Albuquerque, since that job is not there anymore. I don't want to go that way. Gallop's the wrong direction. Tucumcari. We're going to do 9 tons of cars, I guess. So, now that I got to this location, I don't even have a trailer to pick up. So let's go ahead and... That's good to know, because I did eventually take off that mod. And I think the reason I took off the mod was maybe it wasn't compatible with my version or something like that. So I took it off. But there was a part of me that kind of missed the mod, and I wasn't sure which one is more realistic. I'm totally just backing out into this road, by the way. I figure since it's 2:45 in the morning, there shouldn't be too much traffic, right? And I cannot keep my engine running. Oh, because I'm in high range again. That's why. Man, I need to watch my range. Okay, so we are going to be going left and hopping back on the freeway. I meant to check that before I did anything else, and then I didn't. Okay. Oh, yellow light. I did drop my range that time. So down here we can see I'm in 1, so I shouldn't stall it this time when I start off. Except I'm going to start off in 2nd because I am completely empty. Then I don't have quite as many gears to go through. Found a couple of interesting streams while I was gone that I ended up subscribing to, and I don't remember offhand who they were. But one of the things I find is the streams I like to watch are similar to the streams that I do. I was having a hard time finding similar streams, but I did find a couple over the weekend. I guess not over the weekend, over the week, while I was out of town. And so that was nice to go out and find some that are similar to mine. See things that they do that I like, the things that they do that I don't like, and do a little bit that way. Okay, so I'm not sure how far we have on this. How's my fuel? I'm at half a tank. I'll be able to do this delivery. Oh, come on. Oh, I watched I may have talked about that last time. Never mind. I'll leave that out. And so I watched an interesting video from Volvo Trucks where they pulled a 750-ton road train. That was actually really interesting. They used their 750-ton FH16. So I find myself watching the Volvo Trucks channel quite a bit, actually. Maybe they're just brainwashing me with all of their "look how awesome our trucks are" videos. But from what I've seen, I have to agree. Oh, I shouldn't have merged over because this lane's disappearing. Okay, and this is my exit. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting really quiet here. We'll go see if we can do that musical road, because that is one I've definitely wanted to drive. Oh, dang. If I had gotten in my gear fast enough, I wouldn't have had to stop. Unless that's... Nope, okay. I keep getting tickets because they've got a green light, or a green arrow, or a red arrow, I guess is technically what it is. And I don't realize it's got a red arrow because it's above my view there. And then I end up getting a ticket because I think that the red light means that I could go. Come on. Yeah.
Matty Finds said, I was thinking of streaming soon. I was having trouble with my track IR, but I just got a new one in today. Maybe
Oh, yeah?
I'll stream some time after I get my groove back.
Yeah, how do you like track IR? It sounds like, I mean, it sounds like you like it. I had a Tobii, a Tobii eye tracker, I think is what it's called, which I've used playing Rise of the Tomb Raider. That's actually when I bought it, and it doesn't, it doesn't have that good of support. One of the problems is it doesn't have any support in ATS, I think, and in ETS, it only has eye tracking. And so I would prefer to have head tracking, which is what your track IR gives you, I think. And so I think that track IR would actually be more useful. Although I don't need it so much anymore since I switched to the 3 screens. But I think that's a pretty cool option from what I've seen. I see lots of streamers that use that. Oh, this is my turn right here. I almost missed it. Is it hard to get your settings right on the track IR, or was that fairly easy to get nailed down? Okay, I take it that's my trailer right there. Okay, freight market. Let's grab those cars. Now this is going to be a light load, which will be nice.
Matty Finds said, it's very natural and I can't see myself playing without it. Having to use your mouse or AD pad can easily distract you from backing up or just driving in general.
Agreed. And I'm saying, and that was definitely, when I had the track IR, like I said, I actually bought it for playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then I tried to use it on the truck simulators, and it just didn't work that well for me.
The settings are fairly good out of the box. I don't think I even changed anything actually.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I just realized that I didn't have my mirrors up for you guys to see, so I went ahead and turned them on. And I am not... Oh, I made it. I didn't think I was going to make it. I looked too far off. Okay. So now... This could be fun, because I've got all those cars right there that I don't want to hit. So this is my first time doing anything from this location. I think I've delivered to this location or a similar location once. Oh yeah, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, I see one of the guys that I watch here and there, and I quite enjoy his live stream, although I've never been on his live stream. I've always watched it afterwards, but it's Jeff Faviano, and he seems to use a track IR as well. Oh, and of course right after I kick it up. But he seems to use that. Also, I think the 2 other streams that I found over the weekend that I was enjoying, they both use track IR. Seems to be fairly popular. Okay, we're good over there.
Said, Jeff is the man. I love his LSPDFR series.
You know, I've wanted to get on and actually look at that. I started to watch one where some episode where he was like racing with some friends or something, which wasn't necessarily my thing, but I've heard really good things, and he mentions that series quite often, but I haven't actually watched the series. I think that's one that I could definitely get into, though. Do role-playing something I enjoy, so that's probably something that I would quite enjoy watching. Oh, I almost forgot to go to the music road. We almost didn't even do that. There we go. Now we'll hit the music road. But yeah, he I think he has some really good high-quality videos. It does a great stream. So he's got a definitely one I wouldn't mind emulating. He's got a great stream going on. and I like how seriously he takes it. He's not, you know, like I said, someone asked earlier, I don't remember who it was, you know, why I'm not doing multiplayer, and I feel like there's just too many people messing around, not enough people taking it seriously. And Jeff's one of those who takes it seriously. I mean, he's doing it for the immersion. And it's interesting because I went back, I actually got into him fairly recently. And so I was going back and watching his older videos, and in his older videos he had his shifting theory all wrong. And I had done enough research that, I mean, he was revving to like 2,000 RPM, and all of that, and so watching his older videos, I was kind of cringing because I was like, you shouldn't be revving so high and stuff, and that was just what he did normally, and not you know, oh crap, I let that one over rev. It was his standard practice was between 1,500 and 2,000 RPM, and so that was kind of frustrating. But then as I went through his videos, there was a trucker who was watching his stream who corrected him on it, and so he was able to get better as he went along and stuff. And so it was kind of fun to watch that progression as well. Watched a couple where his girlfriend drove and whatnot, and anyway, it was my style of streaming. I was like, okay, I could get behind this. And in fact, the first time I ever got introduced to streaming, so there's a channel out there from my brother-in-law that's called Game Epoch. I can't remember whether it's double E's or not, but Game Epoch. And he actually was doing some reviews of he was playing through old video games. But then one time he started playing Dark Souls, and I had no familiarity with Dark Souls, but I hopped on like his 3rd or 4th episode, and I think he had like 10 episodes altogether. He had never played Dark Souls before, so it was a blind run for him. And I hopped on and watched him play, and that was lots of fun. I knew him. I could interact with him. It was a great, and that was my first experience with anything on streaming. Almost didn't slow down in time there. Anyway, I'm trying to do the slow down to gear down. Okay. And now we're down into 5th, and all of 15 miles an hour. Okay. So anyway, so that was my first experience in streaming, and it was fun because he just sat there, and he actually is a lot bigger video game player than I am, and so he knew all kinds of stuff about all kinds of different video games, and he'd sit there and talk about it during it and whatnot. Okay, so it looks like we are about there. We're going to turn left here and then hopefully get up to speed in time to do the musical road. Go ahead. Okay, 5th gear now. I should have held that in a little longer going up the hill there. Oh well. Anyway, so that was kind of my getting into streaming, and I actually have had a hard time finding other channels that are similar to that I necessarily want to take part in. And most of the time I'm not watching someone live stream, although nothing wrong with doing so. I don't know if I'm going to get up to 45. Come on! Come on! I'm going to be quiet on the musical road here, so you guys can hear just the road, not me talking over the top of it. Oh, do I have to get off to the side? I totally messed up. Well, I'm going to have to do that again sometime, because that I did not give that justice. I talked over the top of it, and I missed half of it. So I'll definitely try that again another time. I think that'd be really cool to drive that road in real life, though. But there you go. Definitely going to have to do that again. Because I forgot you had to drive off on the shoulder there. Oh, and I can totally speed up at this point because I'm not driving on the musical road anymore. And I don't want to speed up too much, though, because this is my And I need to drop a gear. Well, Maddie, I don't think that was as impressive as I'd hoped to have been, because I messed it up, but I think that is way cool that they put it into the game. Okay. I've also started, so I used to split a lot more gears than truckers do in real life, just because it's easier to split them in the game than it is in real life anyway. So I've started just doing the only splitting 8th gear.
Said. That's okay. I didn't even know where it was, but now I can check it out for myself.
Yes. Anyway, it sounds like most over-the-road truckers and whatnot, and you said the same thing, Maddie, that you only split 8th gear. You know, you just go full gears up until 8th gear, and then you split the last one. Which I was going full gears through like 5th, sometimes 6th, and then I'd split from there. And I still think on like really heavy loads, like if I had pulled that dozer instead of pulling these cars, I would probably still split more of them. But it sounds like most truckers just go full gears up until 8th. Okay, we are almost up to speed here. And apparently that truck's going slowly. And this is a copper right here.
Said. Yeah, if my load is heavy, I split all 5 to 8.
Gotcha. Mr. Highway Patrol in front of me. Yeah, and I could see that on the heavier loads. I think that pretty much never would you split the lower range, which is where the 18 speed is kind of redundant for a lot of things, although it does look like on the 18 speed that they spread out so the lower gears are actually lower than you do on a 13 speed. But otherwise, I think there would be very few situations where you would actually split the lower gears. Maybe if you're just crawling around and would like a slightly higher gear, but seems redundant most of the time. Okay, so we've got about an hour and 50 minutes on this delivery, game time, not real time. And then looking at the time, I think I'm probably going to call that. I had 6 hours on the road today already driving home, so I think I'm going to call it at that point. But thanks for hopping on, Maddie. It's nice to have somebody to talk to while I truck. Anyway, yeah, so my brother-in-law just started trucking again. He was hauling coal trucks, actually from my area over here, but since he lives on the other side of the state, that wasn't ideal. But he just barely got a job driving a refrigerated truck, and he actually drives all the way down to Farmington, New Mexico, drives over through Gallup, and actually a lot of places on the map here. He also drives up into Colorado. I grew up 60 miles from the Four Corners, so if you drive anywhere over near to there, you constantly switch states from Arizona to New Mexico to Colorado, and so he's kind of driving that whole Four Corners region right now. Although he's driving a Peterbilt, he didn't know which model it was, but it's kind of an underpowered Peterbilt, and it only has a 10-speed in it. And so he said it kind of struggles on all the hills and stuff, which I better slow it down some here. I'm coming into this pretty hot. Anyway, but he's like, he missed trucking when he stopped trucking. He missed trucking, and so he's glad to be back at it again. But I think he said he leaves at like 11 p.m. on 2 days out of the week and gets back at 9 p.m. the next night. So he and his team driver. Anyway, sounded like he was glad to be back on the road. He really enjoyed it before, but the problem was that it was so far away from his family that he didn't want to do it long term. But now he's got kind of a constant gig. And we've got an accident over there. Poor fella. So Maddie, how long have you been driving now?
Matty Fines said, can you guess how old I am first?
I'm gonna guess you're about 30. Seems like a good age. I'm 34 myself, and so I'm gonna guess 30. But I think you often guess people are about the same age as you, so maybe that's just normal. Ooh. Ooh, got a truck on my left.
Matty Fines said, haha, I'm 26 actually.
Oh, I'm not so far off. I figured I was way off. So did you start driving recently, or is it... Whoa, this is my exit. Or is it something you've been doing for more time? Okay. So the one thing that I struggle with, even with this monitor setup... Oh look, there's totally an accident right over there. Even with this monitor setup is seeing out of the left side. And I think it's because my seat's so far back in order to get the mirrors on both sides. Well, you're still young, Maddie. Oh, I totally just have random turn signals on.
Said, I got my CDL when I was 22. I don't know what possessed me to pursue it. I remember my boss telling me there was a class coming up, and I told him I was interested even though I had never considered.
Cool. So that's 4 years now, huh?
Matty Fines said, I'm really glad that I did, though. It's one of my greatest accomplishments.
Cool. I think that's an awesome one to have. I know my dad's got a CDL. Oh, that was a K100. Sorry. My dad's got a CDL. He actually got it when he was... I missed my gear. When he was drilling. And he's had it since then. I don't know how much he uses it currently. And then my brother-in-law's got one up, and I totally stalled because I got going too slowly for 5th gear. Anyway, I think it would be cool to have. In my line of work, I don't think it'd be very useful, but maybe one day. So I should ask you, what do you think? Have you seen the new Tesla truck? Other than being butt ugly, what do you think of it? Oh, come on. Give me a gear. Oh, that was 2nd, not 4th. That's why I wasn't getting anything. I know I've seen a lot of people saying they should put the Tesla truck in the game. Although I think it would actually take away a lot of the joy of driving the game. Like, I've thought about driving automatic at some point or something, especially on the Volvo trucks. But after having spent money on this and everything, then I hesitate to do so. And I think the Tesla would be kind of the epitome of that, because with the electric motors you wouldn't have any gears. So I think a lot of why I drive the game would go away. But oh, I've delivered here before. I know this route a little bit.
Matty Fines said, I have not seen the new Tesla truck. I'll have to check this out. I think
say,
it's
yeah,
a good idea to have an electric semi.
I think so too. And there's actually, I've been reading a lot of things that there are a lot of larger companies that are kind of trying them out. Tesla's actually the first person who's buying their own truck, and they're using it to move things from their battery plant to their manufacturing plant. But it's supposed to have like I think it's like a 300 or a 400 mile range, and it's a Class A truck. Like it's heavy haul, 80,000 pound rated, the whole deal, and it's supposed to have, I think, 300 miles of range, which obviously isn't nearly as much as you get out of a diesel truck. But if they did some kind of a quick battery change setup or something, then it might not be so bad. Anyway, it's interesting if nothing else, and it's supposed to be. So basically, if you know the Model 3, they took like 6 Model 3 engines and hooked them up to provide power for the semi. And so it's supposed to have like insane amounts of torque. And Elon Musk, and typical Elon Musk, has tried to compare it to driving a race car, which I'm sure it's not actually that, but okay, so where am I supposed to be delivering this? I did not pay enough attention there. It's got to be over there somewhere. Okay, so I might just drop my trailer and drive around and figure out where I'm supposed to... You know what, maybe I can just do this. Okay. Will that show me? Oh, it is. It's on the back side over there. Okay, so this is going to be a fun backing job. And I think what I need to do is get turned around over here and then back all the way around that corner. Okay. Yep. Okay. So let's see how this delivery job goes. So if we go crawler gear, of course I've got some worker sitting there. He's like, ah, you're gonna mess this up. And he's probably right. Oh, and I've got workers over here too, huh? Everybody's watching me. Okay.
Matty Finds said, "You got this first try."
We'll see. Okay, so I think I've got to do a big old U-shaped backup to do this. So we're gonna. And I already started off wrong, so I already didn't get it first try. Let's go the other way so that my trailer goes the way I want it to go. Okay, so I need to start backing towards that corner. And I'm going too steep. I'm going too steep. Okay. I'm going to stop real quick and take a look. Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't start cutting. I'm not as close as I thought I was. Okay. I think I've got this. Let's cut it a little more. More. Okay, so I'm not going to make that second corner, am I? Nope, I've got to start a lot closer than that. So we're going to pull up into that space they provided for me so that I can get a little more. Okay, and then we'll start backing up again. No, I should have. I'm gonna have to do this one again. Okay, let's try this again.
Matty Finds said, "Oh, I've delivered here. It took me probably 20 minutes the first time."
Yeah, I say I've done a similar one. I haven't actually done this spot, but there's a similar layout somewhere. And I've actually watched. The only thing that's even partially saving me on this is that I watched Squirrel do a delivery here in his how to back a trailer videos, or to a similar location, to a similar layout, and that actually gave me a leg up on how to approach it. Otherwise, I would not have approached it correctly. Okay, how close am I here? Okay, so I gotta go steeper now. Okay, and then let's swing it. Hopefully I don't hit those barricades right there. I went a little bit, dang, I shouldn't have made it go steeper. I was about right before. Okay, I'm gonna have to back up and then do a serpentine to get it out there. Okay, because I'm about exactly parallel to where I need to be. Okay, so let's just go. Okay, so I need to go like this, and then go like that, and then go like that. And that did not help me at all. I think I'm about back where I started. I don't know, it might have helped me a little bit. Okay. Whoop, whoop. Ball there. It's gonna take a couple more of these and then I think I've got it. And I did not give myself enough room over there. Let's try this again. Okay, we got this. We got it.
Matty Finds said,
One thing I like with the track IR is when you look far enough to the left, your guy sticks his head out the window, which is essential to backing, at least for me.
Yeah, and that is definitely useful. I've thought about mapping something so that I can look out there pretty easily, but I haven't gotten around. I'm still trying to work with exactly how I want this all set up since switching to the triple, because it is actually significantly different. There are a lot of buttons that I used to use more that I don't use anymore, and I could probably replace with something that's more useful in the current setup. I also recently switched from DualShock 4 to this guy right here to do a lot of the functions, and so maybe I could do one of those to do like a stick my head out the window thing, because there are some that I currently have mapped to that I just don't use very much, and I could probably find something else. I know I found since getting my Mega Shifter I have a lot more free buttons than I used to have, and that's so the Mega Shifter makes a huge amount of difference on that. I mean, it's only 3 buttons, but it makes it where I can have more useful buttons to replace those instead of... Okay, how does that look? Am I willing to accept that? I mean, it probably looks better than my last one. We're gonna fix it. This is something I got from Jeff, I think, where he's always like, nah, it's not good enough for me, and like reparks it. And I'm like, well, I can probably do that too, so. Okay, that is pretty good. Unless I will accept that. I will thank Squirrel for teaching me how to park a little better, because if it hadn't been for him, I would have approached that completely the wrong way. So,
Matty Finds said,
I'm pretty OCD about my parking as well. I have to be just right.
cool. Well, Maddie, thank you for joining. I think I'm going to call it a stream.
Matty Finds said,
That's a great thumbnail there.
Oh, I didn't even take a thumbnail, huh? I wonder if my trailer's still there. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and get rid of the two. And then I did want to, let's see, if I go here, and we're going to do the photo studio this time. Sometimes I don't, but this time I'm going to. And that is not what I wanted. So let's go. Now we'll go with this one. Out right there. Something like that.
Matty Finds said,
It's been a pleasure. Hope you have a great night.
You too, Maddie. Thanks for joining. Love to have you on anytime. And maybe I'll see you next time. Thanks for everybody else that watched or who watches here in the future.